This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Garrett Ross of the College Chaos podcast. See, that's what we do to cross-promote. We cross-promote.
Appreciate that.
On this show. Stephen Simcox had a parent-teacher conference.
Those are always fun.
Garrett, have you ever had a parent-teacher conference that went better than you thought it was going to go? Or do you go in worried, or sometimes it's just like, we just want to talk to the parents?
I try to pre-prep and kind of gauge what's going on in the week prior.
Okay.
And see if I can put everything together. But, yeah, it's always best when they do turn out better than expected. I have had a couple of those.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the case today for
Yeah, I'm sure, some of them aren't, but I was a good student, but I was worried that,
I was not.
Yeah, I was a good student. You weren't a good student. Yeah. So I was a good student, but when we had parent-teacher night or if there's like an individual parent-teacher conference, it was always like, oh, what are they talking about?
Right.
Like, I'm going to, I just knew it. Like, at the end of the night, they're going to be like, oh, well, Mrs. So-and-so really loves you, but, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, here it comes.
But she thinks you should be working harder in this. And be like, but I don't like that,
I don't even think we had parent-teacher conferences. When I was in school, I seriously don't think so.
You were from Oglesby, so really they just said
it's not much regulated.
But and plus it was so small. They just like go to the town square and be like, "Hey, Garrett's messing up."
Everybody knew.
Everybody knew. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. So I don't know. He had a parent-teacher conference today, so he couldn't be here. He'll be here next week, and anxious to talk to him about the end of TCU season in particular, and that you go from national championship game to not even in a bowl. That's like. Here's another thing that's paralleling the NFL a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, you've introduced free agency into this thing.
Yes.
And I don't think people grasp the transfer portal as much as free agency just yet, even though many people have said it's free agency. Like, they think it's something different because college has been different. But free agency brings parity and chaos simultaneously to sports.
Right.
So there are, and it's in the pros, usually when you, say you win the Super Bowl and then you're not as good the next year, a lot of it's because of age, right? It just, that's it. Like, that was the thing. And then, time waits for no man. Right. But in college, it's a little bit different because you can't figure it out. But it's really easy in the case of TCU to see why. Like, they had the best team
ever,
player for player, that they've ever had in the history of their school. And then a bunch of those guys left, and they were able to bring in some guys that were somewhat in demand, but also Quentin Johnston and Max Duggan and Darius Davis and Kendry Miller and Travius Hodges-Tomlin. They'd all played together
forever.
Yeah, and they'd been in at Camp Gary Patterson, and they'd been stressed out, and then they needed a little bit of relief, and they got it from Sonny Dykes. And so they'd been together forever. Like, everybody had been together. Garrett Riley had been there this was his first year, but like Garrett Riley had known, because he'd been at SMU, so he kind of knew the vibe of the area a little bit better, so he knew the players that he'd recruited. Like, those things were all kind of there. Then all that changed in a year. So yeah, there's a little bit of drop off, and it's a lot like that team that you didn't expect to make it to the Super Bowl, and then free agency hits, and those guys go, well, look, I could come back and play here, or I could go play in Cleveland where they're going to give me 7 years at $40 million guaranteed, and I'm never going to see that money again, so I'm going to take that because careers are short.
Well, I think as far as like the free agency aspect of what happened with TCU, I think they did a good job of navigating the portal. They went out and got a lot of guys that were traditionally from the Metroplex in general that were coming back home. You raided Alabama's roster for like a handful of guys. You had J.P. Richardson coming in from Oklahoma State. I think it was more of a chemistry issue where you lost so much talent, and the people you brought in, while they were good players, it wasn't all going to click in 1 year. Plus, you're learning a new offensive scheme with Kendall Browse coming over.
Yeah.
I think there was just a lot going into that. And one thing that Jack and I have talked about, and he's brought this up multiple times, is not only did TCU have a large contingent of people that you lost that were part of the best group ever, but those guys, they came up under the gritty mindset of Gary Patterson. So I think there's something to be said from having that kind of mindset instilled in you and what carried over with the new from Sonny Dykes to you have players now who maybe didn't have that same type of mindset. It's all Sonny Dykes guys as well as trying to put it together. It's just a culmination that kind of unfolded this year.
And so like these things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Look, the Bucs won a Super Bowl with John Gruden and then didn't win again until Tom Brady showed up.
Yeah.
Because John Gruden needed to give him an edge that Tony Dungy hadn't given them yet. And mostly an offensive edge. They just weren't that good on that side of the ball. And then John Gruden came in and gave them that in year one because the team was already built. They'd already been through it. They're still running Tony Dungy's defense. They're still running the Tampa 2 under Monty Kiffin and all. Like, they were still doing all that stuff. And then after that, it was like they weren't like an immediate fall off, but like when Dexter Jackson wins the MVP and then goes and gets a bunch of money somewhere, well, like, okay, there was a guy who he's not good at another place. He was good in your system, but now he's got money. Well, you don't have him. You don't just replace him. John Lynch eventually went to Denver. Like, all these things happen. Yeah, that's what happens. And so you'll see that, like, there's going to be a team in this year's New Year Six playoff that next year falls off to a certain degree because they've got a bunch of people that graduate and go to the pros, and then there's a couple guys like maybe that are blocked in the next wave and think like, look, I'm just going to go, to this school in the transfer portal. So there's going to be attrition like there wasn't before, like there is in professional sports.
Yes.
And then you're sitting here waiting like, oh man, we were just in the World Series, the Super Bowl. There's fans all over the country that are like that. TCU is that representation of that. Now, maybe nobody falls off to 5-7, but like it would not shock me to see Washington, who's a really good team, next year be 9-3 because they're going to lose
Penix.
They're going to lose Penix and all three wide receivers.
Yeah.
So, like
New conference too. Like there's a lot of challenges.
Exactly. Now 9-3 is not as punishing as it is now because of the 12-team playoff. There might be a 9-3 team that will sneak in every now and again. I think most teams will be 10-2 that get in, but there might be a 9-3. Like,
I think you'll see more than one. You probably see a couple of 9-3 teams that get in every year.
Yeah, especially if there's a conference championship kind of a situation where they're guaranteed. So 9-3 is not going to be bad, but it's going to happen. And so I'm curious to talk about it from at least somebody who covers a team that is the first real example of it.
Right.
That is going through it where you've hit everything the right way and then you have to rebuilds just happen or the refresh goes. Well, CFP rankings came out last night and we've talked about them a little bit on the show. And Garrett, I don't really care to because
I think last night, if you're going to tune in, last night would have been the proper time to tune in for the first time. Like, that should have been your first go-to. And I still didn't watch it.
Yeah. No, I just wait for the transcript. Mm-hmm. And then you hear Bill Hancock, spout out things that have never been true, about it.
It's propaganda.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta find what he said so we can talk about this because I've got to go on a little bit of a rant about it.
Yeah. Bill Hancock is definitely one of your favorite people on the face of the earth. He's up there with Kenny.
Yeah. I like Kenny Chesney much more than I like Bill Hancock. I'll just tell you that right now. Yeah.
High praise.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, I would rather listen to My Tractor Sexy on repeat for an hour than listen to Bill Hancock talk for 10 seconds. Because and part of it is, I'm sure he might be a nice enough guy.
But he's full-blown lobbyist.
But
that's
he's
all it is.
And I have no patience for that job.
No.
Unless you were a lobbyist for something that we all need, or that's good, I'm going to lobby for against homelessness or, hunger or, clean drink. That's a good thing. That's a good thing to lobby for. But most lobbyists are trying to make you hey, we'd like to make it so that, I know that cigarettes are bad, but we'd like to put them in sandwiches now. How about that? It's not smoking, it's just eating it. Those kind of things. Okay. Bill Hancock said last night, the committee's job is to rank the 4 best teams and that most deserving is not anything in the committee's lexicon. They are there to rank the best teams in order, and that's what they do, so just keep that in mind. Okay. While that is what they say they do, they have never actually done that.
No.
So
I think that's where the human error comes in. You're naturally You're going to see things. You're going to have bias, like recency bias.
Well, okay.
There's all sorts of stuff that's going to play into it.
If it's the best teams, then you can probably take out a couple teams from bad conferences every year.
Easily.
Right? Yes. So, like, if the conference is bad and you have – so you – look, Alabama is better than most teams most years, but most deserve it. Here's where I think you still have to earn it even if you're the best team. The good part about the 12-team playoff is we take this argument away.
Correct.
I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's going to be –
at the end, you'll have your people arguing
But it's still going to be, like, 12 teams, like, there's the playoff. But most deserving, yes, most deserving is a school that – and I know that I'm biased because Florida State falls into this argument because I would have told you that if Jordan Travis is there, they are absolutely one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Correct.
Without Jordan Travis, they're one of the 8 best teams in the country. And I understand. I'm telling you that. I understand that. It's different. But if they win against Louisville, no matter what the score is and they are undefeated and they've gone through and they've done something that only at that point 2 other teams would have done, 2 other teams that are in the playoff, and 2 other teams that you can argue their conferences aren't much better than the ACC, like not leaps and bounds like they have been in the past, right?
Right?
Especially if you beat a 10-win Louisville team, So, again, those things are, they deserve to be there because they earned their way to it. I think, best teams takes away earning it because if you say the best teams, then
that opens up the conversation for somebody to say Ohio State should be there. That's all that is.
But they didn't earn their way to it. No. They lost a game when they shouldn't have lost a game, and they're not in the conference championship game. And now, look, that's all changing. This whole 12-team playoff is going to benefit the Ohio States or the people who find themselves in the Penn States of the world who can't get there because, the system was how it was. So, I mean, he says that, and it is just total nonsense. And I really, I was getting engaged in Hawaii when you guys had him on at Big 12 Media Days, but I was really, they were so shocked by what he said, they wouldn't have said anything. But you know how I feel about him in the first place. I would have come at him like a spider monkey. I'd be like, whoa!
It was the most awkward thing. And he just said it so nonchalantly and then tried to I think he realized the significance of what he said by everybody's facial expressions, and then he just kind of tried to stay the course, but it was real weird.
He did. Craig asked him about are you worried that if we have 2 mega conferences that it becomes the Super League of these 2 conferences? He's like, no, people will watch anyway. And you're like, okay, yeah, hold on. So he said the quiet part out loud.
Yes,
and that's not and that's what lobbyists will occasionally do because occasionally they are posed with that question that they can't they either know they have to lie about it or if they can just say well, no, we're not worried about it. The trend shows this, but again, you make anything too big or too much of the same thing, and no matter how popular it is, people will fight back against it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll give you the example, Jack can probably back me up on this, of what is going on at Disney right now on pretty much everything they put their hands on. And that they had a red hot streak of doing things, and then now, and now they're in a problem because, they got, they went too much. Right. They spent too much on it. So they drilled down into hey, this comic? Well, this guy was his 5th sidekick. He's going to have his own show.
Like it. You'll enjoy it.
He's going to have his own show. Sit down and watch it.
You don't know nobody, but they're there.
Yeah. And then the guy that you like will show up in the show for 1 second on the TV screen.
That's all. That's the preview you get to see.
Yeah, that moment. So, but yeah, no, but that's what that would be. Yeah. And again, you get too big, people will fight back, and eventually it hits you where it counts in the pocketbook. And so, yeah, they're not this is not going to be the 4 best teams because, and I'll tell you, if Alabama gets in and Texas doesn't, then
head-to-heads don't matter.
Then I don't know if that's really the case because aren't you better than a team that you beat?
You should be.
Most of the time, or you should have done that. So, and I can't believe I'm sitting here arguing, we have been put in a situation where we have to argue for a blue blood like Texas, but
The crazy thing, though, is I legitimately think, well, I don't know, man. I think Bama has a better chance of beating Texas if they played now, but that's not what matters.
No.
At all. Like
No.
they've played when they did. Texas won, and that's what needs to carry the most weight, in my opinion.
No, and you don't need to do the thing that Bob Bowlesby did to the Big 12 where you say, well, Alabama's won losses to Texas. Texas's won losses to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is worse than Texas and beat them. So, if so facto, then but you're when you're saying Oklahoma is not as good, you're really splitting hairs. Yeah. The team that's 10-2 is one game, okay.
Right.
And you beat Georgia and you end their winning streak and all that. The worst thing that can happen for Texas is that Alabama wins. It's the worst thing because it will put in Alabama will have their trump card and they'll have the most powerful lobbyists in the world, able to sit there and go, blah, 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 And I said, that's Nick Saban will be, we rebounded nicely from a rough go at the beginning of the season. Okay. So, if Alabama gets in, say Alabama gets in over Texas and you take Florida State out on style points. Okay, then how come Alabama wasn't punished for their style points early in the year?
Yeah, I think
so. When do style points matter? They seemingly only would matter at the end of that argument. So if you're saying Florida State beats Louisville, 17-10,
right?
In a sloppy game in Charlotte on Saturday night, and you're like, well, that wasn't impressive as what Alabama just did against Georgia. So we're going to put Alabama in, and we're going to put Oregon in because Oregon beat an undefeated Washington team. So it's going to be. And then we'll put Texas in because they beat Alabama. Well, then you've got Florida State sitting there going well, when do style points matter? Because everybody, I would go in front of the committee and be like, you got to throw style points out because everybody on this list has had style point problems.
Well, I mean,
except for Oregon, really.
But
their one loss wasn't really that, I didn't really feel like it was that bad.
No, it wasn't. And they have the opportunity to redeem that. But so, in this situation, Texas would need to blow out Oklahoma State, right? And then I don't see if Bama beat Georgia, I understand them because they would be your conference champion getting in. But what is the case, the realistic scenario because Texas seems like they still wouldn't get in because of where they're seeding. How does the seeding affect all this?
Well, look, they've put Texas behind it. Texas needs.
I don't like where Ohio State is. I think Ohio State should be behind both Texas and Alabama because they're playing for their conference championship.
And I think they'll finish behind them.
Yeah.
And when it's all said and done. But part of that is that, FSU Grad 03 says, that's blasphemy. Paulie R. Knowles are in with a win. No, I know they are. They're in with a win. They're in with a win. I'm there has been the argument out there that they'll get, even with a win if it's not because Jordan Travis isn't there and they'll get style pointed out of it. But, again, I can go, I'll go through everybody. Oregon's loss was the prettiest loss, if you want to say, of the losses.
And it was they did it to themselves.
Texas's loss was a prettier loss because, again, it was Dylan Gabriel making magic, at the end of the game. But, so if you're undefeated and you don't have to compare losses, you're in. But that's a fear,
right?
And I don't think that's fair. To take the rest of the FSU team out, of which most of them are studs.
Yeah, no, their defense is elite.
Because Jordan Travis isn't there. It's we were only going to take all of you if this one guy was there. That's dumb.
That's a stupid argument.
Okay, what if Michigan doesn't play well against Iowa and J.J. McCarthy tears his ACL, which obviously I don't want to happen, but so do you go, Michigan didn't look that good against Iowa, and now J.J. McCarthy's not going to play, so they're not going to do that. So you can't apply that logic to anybody. If, Iowa and Louisville are in the same boat as conference title participants in that they are not as well thought of as the Georgia and Alabama.
Right.
What if Texas plays a sloppy game but wins against Oklahoma State, who's 9-3?
Yeah, I think that would probably there would make a case that would be held against them.
So again, you all these things. Just look, I'm going to simplify it for them. Any team that's undefeated gets in.
Correct.
And then after that, any team that beat the other one, forget about common opponents, like the
whole Texas Tech argument.
The Texas Tech, forget about common opponents, because again, then if you play common opponents, then Oregon can say, well, we played Texas Tech when they had their starting quarterback. We played them at their place. And then you'd be like, well, Bama got better well after, Texas beat them, so we can play this game
it's the same scenario
all that you
sides.
want, right? Yeah. So, you can drill down and everything, but any undefeated team gets in, just that makes it easy for you.
Right.
And then if a team beat another team and they're down to it, then they're in line before that team, and I'll also make it easy for you. The Pac-12 champion gets in.
Yeah, easily. That's been the hands down, top to bottom, the best conference all year long.
Yeah.
The winner definitely deserves to be in on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So
is there a conflict? Like right now, it's more so looking like Texas has the best shot of being left out, per se.
Yeah. I mean,
that's their own fault.
Because they're seventh. Like, they should not be behind. They should not be behind Ohio State.
No, not at all.
And they, they should be ahead of Alabama, but the committees rank them behind Oregon every single time, and that I buy, because Oregon has.
I think Oregon's played the better schedule.
Yeah, Oregon to me, and I've said this before, they're the team that matches up with everybody without question on this list of the 7 teams or 8 teams that can get in.
Right.
I say 7. I don't think Ohio State's getting in.
No, they shouldn't.
They shouldn't get in. But of the top 8 teams, Oregon matches up better with every other team they create matchup problems on both sides of the ball better than anybody else does. Save for maybe Georgia. But even then, Georgia is the one, Georgia I kind of take out of this, but if you're saying Georgia's going to be in, the team that presents the biggest matchup problem for Georgia to me is Oregon. And the team that presents the biggest matchup problem for Michigan is Oregon.
Because they can spread out those defenses.
Washington already knows who creates the biggest matchup problem for them. It's Oregon, but they'll already play them before it, so they're not going to play again. Florida State, Oregon. Again, because they're very similarly built. Big plays on the outside, great running backs, defense that gets after you, really good in second halves after they've seen you do what you're going to do.
Oh, the adjustments are ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about going at halftime and be like, hey, watch out for this. I just think they've got really smart football players on Oregon's team that I saw him do it that this time.
Right.
He won't do it again.
Remember, yeah.
Oh, you got me that time. You won't happen again. Texas, it's Oregon. I mean, again, it's Oregon. To me, they're the worst matchup. So the best news for everybody would be if Washington just beat them, because
that would end all of this.
Yeah, Washington doesn't run the ball. Washington can play really tight games. Oregon, I
feel like since that game, though, since Washington and Oregon played, Oregon has looked as good or better each week, whereas Washington has looked. And saying that they have gone backwards or something would be not fair, but they've kind of stalled out, and they've let people adapt and catch up to them.
I think they're as good as they're going to be, right?
Right, yeah.
And they're really, really good. So, but I don't know if they're going to, do anything new. And mostly the thing about Washington is they don't really run the ball.
They've tried to over the past couple of weeks, but it's not consistent.
But it's not the thing that they do. Their thing is, we'll run the ball, but we're going to make sure that you're going to back off. You've got to try to stop one thing or the other, and you're going to be more worried about these wide receivers and Michael Penix carving you up than you are about the running backs, who are actually pretty good. It's just not what they do. So, but in the playoff game, you're going to need to run the ball a little bit. You're going to need to do it. You can't get too one-dimensional. So. Georgia can do everything. I was impressed with Michigan early in the year because they were just blowing people out. But the more I watch their offense, they've got really good running backs. Their wide receivers are not scary.
No, they had that tight end that looked good last week.
But as far as if you're going to talk about a wide receiver beating, DBs from Georgia or Washington or Oregon or Texas.
They don't have that.
When Texas that's their weak spot, or Bama, that's not what they're going to do.
No.
So, I think Michigan, as good as they are, nothing's much changed from them from last year to this year stylistically and the way that they play. And that's where TCU got them, was that they haven't played. Like, Michigan has not played anybody, including Ohio State, for whatever reason. When Ryan Day plays them, he tries to play Michigan style and not his own.
Yeah.
And it gets him. It's gotten him 3 years in a row now. So he tries to play Harbaugh style, and he tries to be Harbaugh, and he doesn't try to be Ryan Day. And so, but they haven't seen the kind of offenses that they will see in the playoff. And look, their defense is pretty good. It's not Ohio State good, but it was better than them the other day.
Right.
But like week in and week out, but they just haven't seen it. So I wonder, because they didn't see it last year until TCU when they lost that game, if they're really ready for it.
I mean, I think playing a team like Maryland early on would probably help them with that. But
they played Maryland a couple weeks ago and had a bit of a tough time.
So I mean, I think that where Michigan can hang is in their rushing game and in the trenches. But if you're facing one of these offenses with the receivers and the core receivers, that's where I'm kind of concerned about them. But I think I've been more impressed with Michigan over the past few weeks from a sentiment of how they've navigated all the outside noise. I don't think very many teams can do that, especially going on the road to Penn State without your coach and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know how many teams in the country could have done that. I think from that standpoint, that's where I've been more impressed with them. But as far as like playmaker for playmaker, offensively, I think they can match it for the most part. But defensively, that's where I don't know that their secondary can hold up.
Yeah, I mean, again, they haven't seen them, right? And they've got some good, they've got good players at all 20, all 22 starters are good players,
right?
Maybe even great players in certain regards, but they've got really, but they just haven't seen it, and that's what you got to wonder about Michigan, because we saw what happened last year when they saw one of these teams from below the Mason-Dixon line.
I still think they overlooked TCU. I think they did not think TCU had a chance in hell of beating them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, but also Quentin Johnston's pretty good. He's pretty dang fast. Oh, this quarterback is he's slippery.
Yeah.
All those things. Oh, well, he seems to have no fear. He just maximum effort all the time. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about these championship games coming up this week. What are the matchups? Which one is most likely to end in an upset, or how's it going to go? This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back alongside Garrett Ross. And Garrett, I want to talk about this with Pierre tomorrow, but this portal stuff is kind of getting
insane.
crazy.
It's
where
ridiculous.
You're hearing about what people are getting offered. And I'm glad that we were kind of hearing this now. Although a lot of it, some of it's rumor, but you knew. That's why I think it needs to be just out in the open. Well, I would look, if Cam Ward's really been offered $2 million to go somewhere, I would love him to be like, heck yeah, I'm going to Nebraska for $2 million or whatever it is, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know. He's not even in the portal yet, but that was the thing Brock Heward reported yesterday. Now, Joseph Duarte just reported that Houston defensive tackle Jamari Caldwell has been offered $500,000 through a third party from a top-tier Big Ten school to go there.
So that's two now, right? Because wasn't it Matthew Golden in the SEC 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That he was getting offers. And we know what happened with Alden McCaskill last year. So that makes sense. Yeah, dude, it's crazy how it's – I feel like the numbers and the more that this comes out, it's going to be more fuel to the fire for the schools to finally start paying players. Because at this point, what are you like? At some point, you're going to reach an
you
area
need contracts.
but you can't keep relying on your fans to pay these or to come up with money. Like I think you brought up a good point, and I don't know if you saw this where Jim Harbaugh was asked a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I would take a couple million of my pay and help pay the players." I think you're going to start seeing more of that where coaches do take these cuts or athletic departments create these separate budgets somehow and start moving it towards them. But you're going to need to do that at some point because you can't keep expecting fans to keep doling out money, and you can't keep letting this happen. This is ridiculous.
Because eventually there's going to be a point where a coach is like hitting the ceiling, right? Of, well, I'm 10-2, I'm 10-2, I'm 10-2. I can't beat the rival in the conference because they're paying this much, but your donors are kind of tapped to what they're going to do.
Right.
And enough of them will ask, like, hey, coach, we keep giving you raises every year.
Exactly.
So like you went from $6 million and now you're at 11. What, like, just tell me what about your lifestyle would change if we put you back at 8 and took $3 million away, and then make them answer that question.
Well, not just that, but you would also get to a point where you're going to have to say, okay, if it comes down to I need this certain facility. Well, I mean, do you really, or do you need NIL money?
Yeah.
Like you're about to come to a breaking point where millionaires are going to have to come up with these hard decisions, and I think it's just more fuel for the fire where schools are going to have to start paying players.
Again, like you are like going to have to like tell someone, like they'll go to you and you'll say like they'll come and say, hey, I know you were very generous, but we need this. Like, okay, here's what I'll tell you. I can't give any more, but you can take that money I gave you and put it towards that. But then then the school has to make the decision of, well, I guess we're not getting that new, so-and-so.
Right.
So it's
I think what it's also done, and I could be totally wrong on this, but what I feel like over the past couple of years, it's gone from what used to be JUCOs and your Conference USAs or whatever that used to be the feeder schools. Now you're getting other programs like Houston or other Power 5 programs who aren't on the same budget level. They're starting to become the feeder schools for the Big Ten and SEC teams. And you're going to have to head that off before. I think we're going to super conferences anyway. I think you're going to have a totally different landscape within the next decade. But to head that off, you're going to have to, because you're just creating more of a gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
And you're having Power 5 schools that used to be on their own and hold their own weight are about to just become feeder programs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this week, conference championship games abound. We're going to focus in on the ones that affect the playoff, Garrett.
Okay.
Not to knock, New Mexico State and Liberty, which I think will be a fine game. Jerry Kill's done a great job there at New Mexico State.
Yes.
Just beat Auburn badly.
Yes.
Badly. Like that's one of Alabama's style point games too.
Yes.
Needed a miracle at the end that only
Hell of a throw by Jalen Miller.
only Milrose on seriously. Next year Milrose going to be a terror.
Yes.
Because he's got confidence now and he knows the things he can do well. So now he's just going to spend the offseason like getting better enough at the things he doesn't, and they're going to add new wrinkles to that. Yeah, no, he's going to be a nightmare.
They're not going anywhere. Bama's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching him when he played against A&M last year going, this kid's athletic, but he has no idea what he's doing.
That's what it was like when he was in high school. Like he would just create plays with his legs. He would just out-athlete everybody.
Yeah.
And now he's having to adjust, man. Yeah, he's going to be a problem.
I mean, he still can do that, but like when you get to the next level,
you've got to adapt.
You got to adapt. Like you have to out-athlete them with skill as opposed to just like, just God-given, like I can do all this. But, all right, let's start with Washington and Oregon from Vegas on Friday night. I just think Oregon's played better since that last game, and Oregon would have won that game had they called better plays on those fourth downs. I said it when it happened. In that game, I'd have begrudged Dan Lanning for going for it on any of those fourth downs. It was good decisions every single time. But it was poor play calling because they weren't the gotta-have-it plays. Like, those are what they call them where this is your best gotta-have-it play. Mm-hmm. You have to run those. They were not high percentage. They were one receiver in the route. Like, everything has to go this way. They've got to give them options. Yeah. So I think Will Stein, the offensive coordinator, and Dan Lanning will have probably greatly learned from that last one.
Yes.
And I also don't know if this is going to come down to that necessarily, because I just think Oregon's been playing a lot better lately. I still think it'll be a great game on Friday night, and that they'll be toe-to-toe because there's not much separation between the two. We saw that. But I think Oregon, to me, Oregon gets in the playoff by winning this game.
No, I agree. I think looking at this, it'll be a close game. It should be fun. But like I said earlier, I just feel like since they met the first time, Washington's been on this different trajectory, and Oregon has gotten better each and every week. I think also given that you have the Heisman Trophy essentially on the line with these two quarterbacks, and I know other awards that go with that as well, but whoever wins this game gets more of a case for the Heisman as well. I like Oregon in this. I think Oregon's able to get the dub.
Yeah. So, I like that one. I think it's going to be interesting. And I think that one, it will mean so much more for the college football playoff. Okay, Oklahoma State and Texas. I'm trying to see my way to figure how Oklahoma State can do this, but Texas is so good at stopping the run.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. So Alan Bowman's going to have to play the game of his life. Now, he beat him once when he was at Tech, but that was a different Texas team.
Yeah.
It was a different Texas coach. It was a different culture. It was different everything. So I don't know. I'm going to predict this. I think before we get into the other ones, I don't think the weekend is going to go how Texas needs it to go, and they're going to feel a lot like they did in that Oklahoma Texas Tech three-way screw up year where they're just. Was Oklahoma in after that? Yeah, Oklahoma went in after that. I guess it was 2008, right? 2008 when that happened?
It would have been, because Oklahoma beat Tech in the championship. Beat the hell out of them, I think, in the championship.
Oklahoma, didn't play. No, they beat Tech really badly before then, and they beat, because that was when it's still East and West. But, so whoever they beat, they, maybe Kansas State or something like that. But they, that year, I just have a feeling Texas is going to be like, if only. Yeah. I think they're going to be probably fifth.
I feel like this is a game that Texas, if you look over the past few weeks, they play with their food at some point in time. But I think given how everything's unfolded over the rankings the past couple of weeks and them understanding where they're at, I think you're going to see this kind of be similar to what you saw last week when they just drummed Texas Tech. I think they know that they got to win, and they can't just win. They got to win by massive amount. Kind of like Ohio State when they snuck in, they just curb stomped Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. I think you see that with Texas and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think that's where it has to be. Alabama and Georgia. I think it's going to be a great game. Alabama's defense is really, really good. Georgia's defense is really, really good. Both quarterbacks are playing really, really well. Georgia probably is better at the skill positions than Alabama is right now, which is weird to say. Now, Alabama's receivers are no slouches.
No,
Isaiah Bonds and Jermaine Burton and those guys are good, but they're not Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, those guys. Yeah, it's a little bit different than what they've had. They're just a hair, and then they'll probably be there next year. They're just not there right now.
Yeah.
But they make big plays. Those receivers make big plays. I think Georgia they found themselves again. I was wrong about them in that I thought they would lose a weird one, and I was almost right. I thought they'd lose a weird one because it's really hard to do what they're doing. And they've just proven Carson Beck has gotten better this last 6 weeks. He's really, really looking like a star. So as before it was just he's a baby deer standing up for the first time for a little bit, and then now he looks like he's coming to his own. But I do think it's going to be a really tight and ridiculous game. You could not pay me enough money to watch all 4 quarters of Michigan and Iowa.
No, there's no way.
That game is not going to be good.
It's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
That will burn your eyes.
It's going to be the best hope that fans have for Michigan to lose is for Iowa to just go full Iowa and really choke them out. But Garrett, I don't see it.
Here's what I asked Jack earlier when we were doing our picks was I think Michigan's a 22, 23 point favorite. Do you think Iowa can even score a touchdown?
No.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see realistically how they find the end zone against Michigan.
Unless they score that on defense. Like, I don't see their offense with their backup quarterback. I don't care what Cade McNamara is telling.
No, it's not going to help.
Iowa about Michigan.
Not going to help.
It's not going to help. Like, it's just Michigan. Like, Michigan could have given Connor Stallions the week off against Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, like that, that kind of thing. Like, they don't. Their offensive signals are not good enough to where you need them. It's just blah.
So, is there any hope with this essentially being Iowa's swan song that they can make it? They can't even make this competitive.
Here's the deal:
right? Like,
they're going to have to get all the magic in the universe because this is the last time that they will be able to get to the Big Ten championship game with the plan that they have.
Yes,
because there's no more. The Big Ten West dies. The Big Ten West dies as soon as this game's over. Yes. It's over. That's it. Saturday is the last day of the Big Ten West. If you had a Big Ten West T-shirt, it's now vintage.
Yes.
It is officially old school. The divisions are gone, and you can't just go, well, as long as we beat Minnesota, and like we'll be all right. That's not how it's going to work anymore at all. Now, the biggest chance for an upset, honestly, is Louisville and Florida State. But I'll just tell you, I think you and I see eye to eye on this a little bit.
I think Louisville's fool's gold.
Jack
hates that, and he wants to argue with that all the time. And I understand where he's coming from, with Jeff Braun being a great offensive mind and everything.
He is.
Great offensive coach to scheme around the great defense and great defensive line. And then you've got a backup quarterback going up against a defense that did keep Sam Hartman in check.
That's fine. I don't know.
That's fine, but Sam Hartman also didn't have Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Jaheim Bell and Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili. He has none of those.
We're talking about a guy who's probably going to be an NFL quarterback versus a guy who is the backup at Florida State.
I don't know if Sam Hartman's going to be drafted in the 7th round, but yes. But I'm also telling you that their schedule, they're in this game by virtue of the fact that they beat NC State, a really good team, 13-10. That's the best team outside of Notre Dame that they beat all year. And they beat Duke. And they shut out Duke.
Are you scared or not? Are you nervous or not?
I'm nervous. Yeah, of course I'm nervous. I'm nervous every game. But I do think that they have not, they've not beaten anybody this year that would make you go, oh.
No.
Even Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got 3 losses, right? So Notre Dame doesn't have the skill players. They've got a really good defense. They've got Audric Estime is a good player. Jaden Greathouse is going to be really good.
He's going to be a dog.
But they were not Sam Hartman went there, and then they didn't go get him. They lost some wide receivers. They didn't go get him any skill players. And
they just lost Chancey Stuckey got fired.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
With all of that.
Yeah, I don't.
You're getting nervous.
I'm nervous, and the thing is that
damn,
why is he so nervous if they're fool's gold? Huh?
I don't think they're fool's gold. I just think that they've not played anybody like this, Jordan Travis notwithstanding. And I'll throw this back to you, Jack. I know it's a different coaching staff, but which quarterback at Florida State beat Louisville last year? Tate Rodemaker. So, Jordan Travis got hurt early in that game. Tate Rodemaker came in and won the game. So,
Paul, I don't know if you've noticed, but Louisville's kind of entirely different this year.
Okay. Did they play Clemson? Did they play North Carolina? And did they play Florida State in the regular season?
No.
Okay. Did they play Duke when Duke had their starting quarterback who was the second best one in the ACC?
So you want me to hold games that they haven't played against them?
Well, what I'm saying is they've not seen this yet. So have they had to, again, Florida State's defense, you keep talking about Louisville's defense. Florida State's defense has 7 NFL players on it. Louisville's has maybe 1. So, again, whose defense is more scary, Jack?
I'm not saying Louisville's defense is supposed to be scary. I'm saying I think it's good enough to cause some issues for a backup quarterback. And the fact that one of the better play calling and schemers on the offensive side of the ball in Jeff Brom is going up against the great defense of Florida State. I think that might give Louisville a chance.
I got a chance.
Florida State.
They've got a chance.
I just want to be on the record. I picked Florida State in our college chaos.
But you did sing the praises of Louisville. That's why I wanted to get you involved in this.
Yeah.
Because me and you were total opposite on Louisville.
Yeah. Look, they
I think it's going to be a tough game to pick.
Yeah, and if I'm Mike Norvell, like my message to the team is like, listen, if all of us are better than all of them, then it shouldn't matter if Jordan Travis is here or not.
Right.
And I think like a lot of people are throwing like what Florida did with a very bad defense against Florida State in their face last week, which is kind of deserved. But I'll just tell you, if you watch that game year in and year out,
it's a rivalry game.
Never makes sense.
Just like Oklahoma and Texas, there's no way in hell Oklahoma should beat Texas.
Never makes sense. Like
it never makes sense when huge bragging rights are on the line that teams might be able to play a punch above their weight, something like that. With a lot on the line.
When you've got that FU energy going, like
no one believes in you. You got a first-year head coach, and everyone's saying that you're fool's gold.
Yeah.
I can argue all day, baby.
And I'll just tell you, there's no hate between Louisville and Florida State.
No.
They don't care that each other exist. It's not a thing. It's a game this week.
It's just there.
Yeah, it's there. I think they do play each other in the regular season next year or the year after. But they're going to play each other every so often. It's going to be even less now because they got to go to Cal and SMU and Stanford. So it's not a thing, but I will tell you, it does suck that Jordan Travis does not get to play in this game because he got hurt last year going back to Louisville for the first time since he transferred. Then he gets hurt 2 weeks before they play him again. So, I also think Tate Rodemaker will play better because it's not the Florida game.
Yeah.
Like
he's got more time to prepare.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some game reps under him, and I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be better. I do worry that there's some history here for Florida State, though.
He's nervous, man.
No, look. My freshman year, Chris Winkie got hurt in the Wake Forest game, which is the second to last game of the year. And we had to play against Florida with Marcus Alton, the Rooster. And the Rooster had a fantastic game, but was benefited by the fact that before the game, there was a huge fight in the center of the field. And one player from each team got kicked out. A big, stupid, dumb third-string lineman for Florida State, who honestly was like, this is probably good. I can go eat while
just post up
here. And Marquand Manuel, who's now like an NFL defensive coordinator, Marquand Manuel, who was Florida's starting safety, he got kicked out of the game, and their backup safety was already hurt. So they were on their third-string guy. So the two biggest offensive plays of the game happened because Marquand Manuel was not there. And it was a close game. It was 23-14 was the final score. And then they had to wait a month before they played Tennessee in the national championship game. And Philip Fulmer's like, well, we can get this guy. Yeah. Like Winkie can carve everybody up, but this guy, he's more of a runner, and he was. And so didn't have the same offense. So I'm a little bit worried. Now, I'm glad it's not a month. I'm glad it's 6 days.
Right.
But even still,
they'll be fine.
I think they'll do it. I'll tell you, I have no faith of them winning in the playoff without Jordan Travis. But
no.
Stranger things have happened. And again,
Louisville's not a playoff team.
No. So, they haven't Louisville's a great story. Jeff Brom's going to do a great job there, clearly. He's done a great job already. Yes. But I just think that
they're in over their head in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, their defense, has had, they gave up 31 to Miami. They gave up 24
they should have been
to UVA.
Virginia.
Yeah. So I would think
Garrett's just sad that Louisville's winning and LSU isn't.
Oh, dude.
No,
come on, Louisville. They don't want none.
Hey, I hope that the bowl game that Louisville winds up in is across from LSU right now. I hope it's 10-3 Louisville versus 9-3 LSU.
Oh, dude, that would be like the Lamar Jackson game all over again.
But you'd have to hope that Jaden Daniels plays in it because
Daniels isn't playing in it. LSU's not going to score as many points as Louisville because LSU's defense gives up everything.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Tell me I'm wrong about LSU's defense, Garrett.
LSU's defense is awful.
Oh man, I'm glad I could get a cameo appearance from the other shows that we have. So
thank you. We appreciate it.
But Louisville. Look, Louisville is a huge threat. And look, Florida State, if they play especially offensively early in the game, like they did against Florida, Louisville is better than Florida. That's not a stretch.
Yes.
They're playing with their starting quarterback. Florida was also playing with their backup. Also got a big assist from the ref early in the game, but only touchdown came after a bad call. Just saying.
Just leave that there.
Yeah.
Possibly the worst call I've seen this football season.
Chris Cobb says Louisville will beat Florida State. Absolutely. Paul definitely nervous at the game for sure. Florida gave them the run for their money, and I called that game. Chris, dude, I could have told you any Florida State game is going to be close.
It's always
They're
close.
very rarely blowouts.
Close.
They're very rarely blowouts. They're very rarely
And Louisville just
blowouts.
got beat by Kentucky. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yes. Gave up 38 points just last week. Just last week to Kentucky.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Garrett. You're my favorite one in the room every day, but now I want the world to hear it.
Y'all really took that long to get to last week's results.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It did take us that long to get there. We're old men, Jack, compared to you.
Mine does not work the same.
Garrett's got kids.
They trained me.
I've got a wife. I have to think about things I've never thought about in my life.
And that's why I hold this place together with my own two
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
That's what. Look. That's why we need young people.
Yes.
Because when you get older and slower, it just gets.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. One championship game I'm pretty disappointed in, SMU and Tulane. I thought that would have been probably, to me, it would have been the second most competitive game behind Oregon and Washington, but Preston Stone breaks his leg, the SMU quarterback. That one sucks. I thought that would have been a real fun. Mm-hmm. It's still close, but I just and that's also one where it's going to be in Tulane. I think that's going to be fun. Do you think that's Willie Fritz's last game? I don't personally.
I mean, there's big rumors about Houston right now. I think he stays, but
I don't. I think the Tulane job right now for Willie. Now I'm not saying like across the board, but I think for Willie Fritz, the Tulane job is better than Houston. Yeah. Because while you might get less money, you have a clearer path to the playoff where you could be the group of 5 team going in. And he's got a good thing rolling there. And I think you would have to build up Houston to even get to where Tulane is. I wouldn't take it. That's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't sleep on Louisville. Chris caught this game. Florida should have beaten the Noles. No, they shouldn't have. Like they weren't. Like they scored one touchdown. Let's get through this. Games are 4 quarters. Just like the Boston. I heard this about FSU all year. Like Boston College should have. Games are 4 quarters, man. Like Auburn should have beaten Alabama. Games are 4 quarters. Games are 60 minutes, and you have to play the whole. You have to win the whole 60 minutes, not just 59 and a half. Like you can't. Not just Florida won about 22 minutes of that game, and Florida State won the other 38.
Yeah,
and
it was the cheap shot on Rodemaker at the end too.
But even then, like, there's no guarantee that they won the game. Now, granted, that was the 2-point game at that point and went to a 9-point game after that. But, those are all part of it. There's all part of it. It's all part of it. Every game is the tapestry.
Correct.
It's not just the one part of the thing. So, we only did 2 segments today, and I'm very fired up.
You're welcome, Paul.
Yeah, no. And look, I'm nervous about every Florida State game. I was nervous when they played North Alabama, and for good reason.
You were.
They lost their best player.
Yeah, that was because I remember we watched the game, we were about to go home, and you're like, I just hope Florida State stays healthy. And then I got home and looked on Twitter. I was like, oh, damn. I feel bad for Paul right now.
Yeah, that's all. Like, I never thought they were going to lose the game, even when they were down 13-0. Like, there's all that happens all the time. But, like, this is how I'm going to teach people how to watch games how I watch games. Because I am the ultimate realist fan. Mm-hmm. I would think that everyone who knows me knows that. Like, watch a Cowboys game with me and tell me if I'm, like,
right.
I'm a blatant homer. Right. Look, growing up in a Texas A&M household and then being covering the Cowboys and watching Florida State in their downtime has taken all kind of sunshine pumping out of my body.
Open your eyes.
I can't do it. I do get mad when there's narratives with people that clearly haven't watched enough stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I get mad about. But I'll tell you how I watch a game. If Team A is better than Team B, then you have to think, okay, here's how Team B has to win the game. Like, what's the matchup, and what can they do well to exploits that? And sometimes that's what gets a team. Sometimes it's injuries and all that. But I watch a game knowing, as a fan of any team, that there's a chance that they have their worst day ever because it's work. It's just like anything else. I'll tell you, there are shows that I've done that I wish I had never done. Well, I do this 5 days a week for 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day, whatever it is. And there are days where all 4 hours are total and complete dog crap. Absolute dog crap. I'm admitting that to you as a broadcaster. It's the same for Smokey, it's the same for Craig, it's the same for Jack, it's the same for Garrett.
Yep.
Like there are days where like you're just not good at your job, but you're not terrible at it. You're good enough to get through the job, which is, oh man, glad we got out of that day and it's over. And when you happen to be more talented than everybody else, you can hide it more than everybody else. This was Georgia early in the year, right? Georgia early in the year was like just not like it was just a day at the office, and it was just this kind of all right, ho hum. Who are these guys? Get out of my way! Get out of my way! How much time's left in this game? It's only the second quarter. God, I just want to go. I don't want to play South Carolina. Oh crap, we're losing. Exactly. All right, I don't want to lose to South Carolina, so I'll wake up enough. Yeah. And that happens to every team. Every single team will go through that. Look, it's happened to Texas multiple times. Since the Oklahoma game, it's happened to them almost like between the Oklahoma game and the Tech game, it happened to them in every game.
Yeah.
In every game. And that's a team that I don't want to play. No, they're elite good.
Yeah.
It happened to Oregon against Washington. Like even though they had a good day, they didn't have like Dan Lanning and didn't have his best day.
Right.
He didn't have his best one. So there are all that. Like there's so much that can happen. So yes, I walk into every game nervous. When the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals this year, I was with my wife and her cousin, and we were in Fort Worth in the Stockyards. Mm-hmm. They went shopping. They let me go to a bar so I could watch the game. And I was sitting in this bar watching this game, and I knew from the jump, I was like, Cowboys are going to lose. I knew it because of the way they were playing. Yeah. And I'm like, well, at least it's the NFL and it doesn't ruin the whole season. Right, but this is going to be a bummer sitting here in this bar. And I was like, oh, this will be fun. I haven't done this with a bunch of Cowboy fans in a long time. And there's just
misery.
And it's just everybody's like, well, this sucks. Who is Josh Dobbs? Like those kind of things. That is sports. And it absolutely makes it more enjoyable.
Yes.
It makes you appreciate the good years better. Believe me, this year at Florida State, 12-0 right now, I appreciate more than any year in the history of FSU because even in the down years of Bowden, it was never as bad as it was the last few years of Jimbo and the year and a half monstrosity that was Willie Taggart. So I know, 2020 was just bad for a lot of people, but
which one was it? What year was it when they had the professor reading in the stands shirtless?
That was right before they fired Willie Taggart. Because
that one of the lowest points in Florida State history?
The lowest.
That was the lowest?
Yeah, I mean, there's no lower point than a dude sunbathing and reading in the stands. And, I'm here. Yeah. Here's the thing. It's not even that he was sunbathing in the stands. He brought a book knowing he had to sit through that game because he brought his kids. So it was he was going to be able to read because FSU was just going to be bad. So from that moment on, my whole appreciation of things changed, really changed because it can get bad. Mm-hmm. Every fan base should have that healthy appreciation of that. Now, it's hard to grasp.
Yeah, especially if you're like a blue blood or a team that wins a lot.
Look, and I'll admit I'm probably better at it than most because I work in the industry that I do, and I've seen the bull crap. So
you're a Red Sox fan. You've seen some pretty bad days.
Yeah, I've seen some bad days. I approach everything very realistically. I don't sit there and go, well, maybe this guy's hitting 225, but maybe if we keep him in the lineup, he'll get it. No, baseball's the one this is what sports he doesn't hit left-handers. Don't put him in the lineup. Yeah. This guy can't tackle. He's not your linebacker anymore. Move on. Things are finite. Just move on. So anyway, I've enjoyed this rant. I do think that we should take more time for me to have rants like this.
It's good for you.
It's good for you. It's you know what? If I had turned my Apple Watch on, it would have showed me burning calories. Yeah. What's the workout rage? Yeah. That's what? We should invent that app, the Rage app, where you just go in one of those rage rooms. You turn it on. You say, "What's the workout?" It's Rage, and then you just. We have a rage room here in Waco. I'd really like to go to.
That would be awesome.
Especially if Florida State does lose to Louisville. I'm going to go. I'm going to need to reserve some because I have such high hopes to get some. Like, it's not even that. Like, it's been so long since FSU's won the conference. I just want them to win the conference. I'll worry about the playoff in a month, but I want them to win the conference.
Yeah, because Louisville, Clemson's had it on lock, right, the past few years.
Pitt won it. Wake won it once, but, like, it's mostly been Clemson. Yeah. It's supposed to be Clemson. Like, there's only 2 schools that really deserve it. No.
No, now the truth comes out.
Yeah. So.
All right, Desmond Howard.
All right. Exactly. That's going to do it for us today on 365 Sports on the big show. Here's the rundown. We've got Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, talking about that ACC championship game. Brian Haddad, Sports Talk Mississippi on Mississippi State and their hiring of Jeff Lebby. Tim Brando of Fox Sports joins us, and Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach, and the top 5, which is top 5 candidates for Duke. So hopefully before 5:45 today, they don't hire a coach, because otherwise I'm going to have to scramble. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.